negotiating to save money and kept commissions in the U.S. higher than in most of the world. If the settlement is approved by a federal court, listings of homes for sale in most parts of the country would no longer include upfront offers to buyer's agents starting in mid-July. Lillian Wu, Fox News.
Voters in New Jersey may soon be able to vote on whether they should have a right to a clear environment. A bill now making its way through the legislature is asking that question. Environmentalists say the move, known as the Green Amendment, is long overdue. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
Hello, everyone. This is Lawrence Sutton with Chris Morse, and this is Free Speech News, where we're not politically correct, but we're biblically correct. And two things you don't discuss is politics and religion. Real quick, Chris, before we start off, I wanted to announce the passing of a friend of ours, and her husband's one of my better friends, of cancer today, this morning, Janice Vaz Whittle. She passed away this morning. She's survived by her husband, Rick Whittle, and her son, Evitt. And been praying for him a lot today. Been praying for him for a while. Janice has fought the good fight, and she never gave up, never lost her belief in God. And I just want everybody to know that, to me, this is a sad day for us, but it's a glorious day for her. So,
and she's not having to suffer anymore.
No, she's not. But tell us, I know we're going to start off. I will say this. Buckle up, everybody, because we're going to be talking about some things that have blown my mind, and there's not too much that blows my mind, but today is the day.
Is one of those days.
Yes, sir.
Before we get into this, and folks, this is going to be an interesting show, and the things that Lawrence has been working on, and I think everybody needs to listen up, because I've said this before, nobody but the Lord himself knows the time of coming back. He gives us signs in the Bible. He does not give us the time.
That's right.
So this is going to be a very interesting show. And, if you're a believer, this may put your mind at ease. But if you're a non-believer, you better be buckling down. But before we get off into that, I just want to mention there's a couple of bills coming up that's going to be heard this week. Senate Bill 2804, that is a great bill. It's going to be heard in the Senate Judiciary Committee at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. I think you and I both are going to be in Nashville Tuesday.
I plan on it, yes.
So this bill is a bill, really, and I want to ease back and look at the name of the bill. The bill is a criminal offense bill. It's introduced with a minimum number of criminal investigators from the Criminal Investigation Division of the TBI that must be normally detailed to serve in each grand division of the state. This deals with TBI and FBI and goes all the way up to the Biden team trying to weaponize the DOJ, in which they are not. They are weaponizing the DOJ and the FBI against good Christian, conservative, constitutional people. What the talking points for this bill is, it empowers the chief law enforcement officer who are elected by Tennesseans. That would be your sheriff of your county. We do not elect the FBI.
That's correct.
It prevents our local law enforcement resources and personnel from being co-opted by the FBI. Protects Tennesseans from being an FBI target due to religious and political beliefs. And local resources will be focused on local crime activity. The FBI will focus on states where it's easier to implement their weaponized agenda. So if we make it tougher in Tennessee, they're going to go to states where it's easier.
Right.
It's what's going to happen. And the TBI and FBI can continue to share information, which they should.
Right.
Now, there's the Sheriff's Association of Tennessee and also a couple other agencies are pushing back on this, because what happens is if the FBI comes in, the feds turn around and reimburse the TBI and or our local law enforcement for overtime.
Okay.
So that's some blowback. But this is to protect you and I, the citizens of this great state, from the DOJ or FBI being weaponized. It being weaponized against us gives us some teeth. And guess what? Guess who the senator is that's sponsoring this bill?
Same guy that sponsors our radio program.
Well, a senator.
I'm sorry.
You got ahead of the game.
I got ahead of the game there. Yeah, Joey Hensley, I know, is a senator. I'm still thinking what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, and which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But Todd Warner is the House sponsor, and I know that Jody Barrett is co-sponsored with him, and Monty Fritz, great individuals. I was trying to think. Brian Ritchie is co-sponsored, and I think Lowell Russell. Now, Lowell is he's a retired state trooper.
That's correct.
So, there's a big concern, and if you're not concerned, you better be concerned.
Right.
Because they're after the J6 people. If your feet hit the grass of the White House on January the 6th, they're looking for you. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. Another bill that's going to be heard this week, which I've been asked to come up and testify, is Senate Bill 1706, which is also sponsored by our great Senator Joey Hensley, and it's dealing with elections. So there's a lot of people don't understand how things work sometimes, and what amazes me, we got a lot of great representatives up there, both we got more in the House, but we got about 7 great senators up there to do a good job, and we got a handful or 20 plus of House members that are great constitutional conservatives.
Right.
But a lot of times these people that are voting on these bills don't even educate themselves what they're voting on. No. That's sad, and that's been proven this week. You've got to see it firsthand because you was up there this week.
But I'm going to tell you something, Chris. In all fairness to them, you cannot go through 1,500 bills in the 3-month period of time. Our problem, I'm going to tell you what our problem is we have too many people wanting to put out too many bills. We need to have years, hear me out, years, where the only thing that we pass is a budget, and then we need to have every lawmaker go and look for years.
Bill reduction. Amen.
I mean, I'm going to tell you something. It is mind-boggling. It is done on purpose. You have all these people that are writing these bills. They're writing these bills, a lot of these bills, and don't get me wrong. A lot of these bills are not even being written by
our legislators.
They're being written by attorneys and then lobbyists, and then given to our legislators to carry.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you something. I wouldn't trust any lobbyist, attorney, or anybody else when they're writing these bills for their best interest and not for the best interest of the state of Tennessee. I
agree. Well, Lawrence, let's get way off into this. Is a lot of powerful knowledge to swallow in 50 minutes.
Well, I'm going to start off. We're going to start off from the very beginning. We're going to start off with Genesis chapter 1, verse 14.
Right out of the gate.
And I'm going to build, and I may jump from here to there, but I'm going to try to build a case here, Chris.
Well, you're trying to paint the picture.
Yes. But Genesis 1:14 states this, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the nights, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. But what does the very first thing says? It says signs.
Signs.
Do you know
yes.
what the signs are for God? Signs for God is a claim for a prophetic message. That's what signs means in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14.
Like I said, he gives us the signs in the roadmap of the Bible.
That's correct.
He just don't give us the time.
That's correct. Romans 13:11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. So I want people to think about what Paul is saying there. He's saying that our salvation, things that are happening, we need to wake up. Remember how we always tell everybody to wake up?
Wake up, America.
Yeah. Paul's telling the world to wake up. Come out of your sleep, for your salvation is nearer than we believed. So now we're going to go, and like I'm jumping around, but I'm like you said, I like how you said it better. I'm painting a picture here. And the next one that we're going to go to is Psalms chapter 19, verse 1 and 3. And people are going to realize, me and you kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I'm painting this brush, this picture, and I want you to just follow with me.
It's because you're painting and you're stroking that brush because of an upcoming event in April.
Yes, sir. That's correct. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. So now we're going to go to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 and 4. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts. Who hates God more than anybody right now in America?
Well, I obviously want to say Joe Biden.
Well, yes, but I'm talking about a group of people.
BLM,
but I'm thinking more of also the LGBT.
The steers and queers.
The LGBTQ community, which, by the way, BLM. Let's tell everybody it was started by two lesbian women that love abortion, that hate the family. They hate the family. They want nothing to do with men. They think that the family is ridiculous. They want to abort children, and they even said in BLM they want to destroy the nuclear family. They are there to destroy the nuclear family.
Well, and BLM, they could give two hoots about black lives.
That's correct.
God does.
That's correct.
They don't.
So in the last days, scoffers, people that make fun of, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. So these scoffers, these people, they are making fun of, and they're going, oh, Jesus, where is Jesus? Is Jesus underneath this rock? Where is your Jesus? Is Jesus really coming back?
Or is he a figment of your imagination?
That's right. So, so every time I hear people and that state, oh, well, there's no such thing as Jesus, or, oh, yeah, Jesus, he's really coming back. It brings me to this verse. So now, again, we're still painting that brush before we get to everything. I'm going to Matthew 24.
Oh Lord, that is that's even a great chapter of the Bible, a great book in the Bible that helps you understand Israel.
This is where Jesus is telling us about the end times and when he's coming back. In Matthew 24, verse 6 through 8. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
So he's telling us right then, we're dealing with wars, Russia and Ukraine, Hamas and Israel.
And rumors of wars.
And rumors of war, but the end is not yet.
That's right.
And this is in his words.
This is Jesus.
What he spoke.
This is what Jesus is saying. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places.
And that's happening.
That's happening. And then he says, all these things are the beginning of sorrows. So I just want to take the brush and we're going to stop for a second. And I want to talk to everybody about famines and pestilences. Famines, we don't think of people in this world today. Back in the 80s, remember the 1980s, you had Sally Struthers going on there, feed the children of Africa.
Feed the children, yes.
Okay. And we don't see much of that anymore. Now, we definitely have seen a lot of pestilences here lately. It's a 5-letter word I'm afraid to say because they may take us off the air. But everybody knows what I'm talking about. But do you know that in 2020 and 2021, when that so-called disease was killing all these people, and you can go look this up, by the way, on John Hopkins's website. You can look this up. Do you know that there were 4 times, I want people to think about this, 4 times as many people died of hunger during those years than died of that pneumonia. We'll just call it the pneumonia. 4 times as many, Chris. So now we're going to go to Isaiah 13. And in Isaiah 13, I got to find it here on my phone. It is verse 10 and 11. For the stars of heavens and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. The arrogance of the proud. Pride comes before the fall. There's a group where pride is their main word.
And let's think about that for just a moment. This is, went on high warp speed is a good way to put it.
Yes.
Over the last 5 years, how all these alphabet people have come out, from the drag queens to all these transgenders. They have inundated communities right here.
Well, you have to. The problem is that we agreed to be loving, and we agreed to be kind, and they have took our weakness. They've took our meekness for weakness. Getting off subject, but the city of Franklin, the board of the mayor and aldermen voted unanimously to give the Pride Festival in Harlansdale Park, a public park that is owned and managed by the city of Franklin, unanimously. Just, that's for free.
See, last year when that happened in Williamson County, or in the city of Franklin, which is in Williamson County, it was a tie vote, and the mayor cast the vote to let them have that park last year.
Right.
And see, this year, every one of them voted for it.
That's correct. So do you see how evil just keeps ramping up and ramping up?
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is a perfect example.
You can take Pulaski for an example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everywhere, Chris.
So,
it really
you know,
is.
I want to give a shout out to our county executive, Graham Stowe, and some fellow commissioners who worked very hard to put together a set of rules and regs for the use of our agri park. Under the previous administration, they were running rampant at our agri park and having drag queen shows, performances in front of young children. I'm talking about men dressed as women and children 4 to 6 years old stuffing money in their bosoms just like they were in a strip club.
Right.
Now, that's some sick-minded parents.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Whether you agree or disagree, you're sick. My opinion.
Could you picture somebody taking their children to Nashville,
To a cabaret?
to a cabaret, and telling their children to put inside these women's panties, putting money inside of those? Yeah. Could you picture that? You know what? As a matter of fact, those places would not allow it to happen.
No, they don't. You got an age barrier.
It's
there.
18, is it not?
18 or 21. Don't give me, I know.
I know.
I'd have to look. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
But immaterial is not 4 and 6 year olds.
That's correct.
But see, that got stopped. Then they go to Squawk, and I think they used our agri park for 2 years until some new regs and rules and regs got in place, and it forced them to the city. And unfortunately, and there's some good folks on our, some good aldermen, friends, but they all voted unanimous.
Yeah.
You know, and that bothers me. And I'm talking about Christian folks as well. We're supposed to wear the shield of God at all times.
Yeah.
Not be 3-hour-a-week Christians. You know, and a lot of people, when they leave the church house, they hang up their armor at the door and then go back to their worldly affairs during the week.
Absolutely.
So
getting back on track.
But I just wanted to say, they're not going to be using the square this time. In the Pride Month of June, they have been forced to a park in the north end of Pulaski.
Okay. Amos 5:8. Seek him that maketh the 7 stars and Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the day work with night, that calleth for the waters of the sea, that poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. And then Joel, chapter 2, 28 through 32. And this is a very famous verse. You'll recognize it. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days I will pour out my spirit. I will show the wonders in the heaven and in the earth, blood and fire, pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in the mount of Zion in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant who the Lord shall call. So, I got one more, and then we're going to get into, we don't want to call it coincidences, okay? But there's a lot to what we're going to be talking about and why we have read these verses. So now we're going to Matthew 16, 1 through 4. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven, talking about Jesus. And he answered and said unto them, When it is evening, ye say, It is fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the signs of the times? A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto it. Okay? But the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. I want to concentrate on this last part. Jesus is not talking about the Sadducees and the Pharisees at that particular time. He is talking to them about the end times. And he says, a wicked and adulterous generation further down the road seeketh after sign. And remember, we talked about people that earlier that said, where is Jesus? Where is Jesus coming? And they're mocking that Jesus isn't coming. We see all these signs, supposedly, but where are they? And Jesus tells them, no shine shall be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. So where am I going with this, Chris? Let me tell you where I'm going with this. Everybody has been talking about this solar eclipse that is going to happen on April 8th of 2024.
Then the last one we had was in 2017, correct?
2017, so 7 years ago, a little less than 7 years ago. That is correct. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Jonah before we get to these eclipses that are coming about. So there was a wicked king, an Assyrian king, called King Sennacherib. And I'll tell you where you'll know King Sennacherib from. King Sennacherib had went in and he had made what happened to Israel on October the 7th look like a picnic. He went and destroyed and murdered along his path 29 cities in Israel, killing indiscriminately as he went. And he was coming up on what was considered a good king in Judah called King Hezekiah. And Isaiah the prophet gave him the word from God that said that King Sennacherib would not be attacking him. As a matter of fact, God is going to take care of the Assyrian army. That night, 185,000 Assyrian forces were killed by the angel of the Lord. King Sennacherib, he actually escaped it. They don't explain how in the Bible, but he escaped it. And he went with his tail between his legs to his home city of Nineveh. Now, this is why this is important. Because once King Sennacherib came back, he built this illustrious palace for himself, complete with all of the murdering of the Jews that he had done.
Now, the Nineveh we're talking about is in modern day northern Iraq.
Yes, Mosul, actually.
Mosul.
That is correct. So it is kind of funny, but right after he built all this, and right after he was trying to hide the fact that he really lost, and his army was devastated. And right after this happened, and he built this great shrine to him, showing how he killed these Jews and everything. And don't get me wrong, he didn't kill nowhere near 185,000. They don't say how many, but he didn't kill probably only 10% of that amount. He was utterly destroyed. He was destroyed so bad that his own two sons actually, years later, assassinated him, stabbing him in the back as he was on his knees praying to his pagan gods. So, why did Jesus say, the only sign that I'm going to give you is the sign of Jonah? Jonah, years later, had to go to Nineveh. We all know the famous story of Jonah, how he fought going to Nineveh. He got cast into the ocean, running from what God told him to do. He was swallowed by a whale, fish, whatever you want to say. Spit up 3 days later. Jonah had a change of heart. He actually had, Chris, in those 3 days, what we like to call a come to Jesus moment. Mm-hmm. And he trudged off, went into Nineveh, and he started letting Nineveh know that they were going to be destroyed. Now, based upon the times that we have here of King Sennacherib, of the times of what Jonah actually says in Jonah, and science that we have with NASA, we are fairly confident that Jonah entered Nineveh on June 15th, 763 BC. Do you know what was so important about that day, Chris? There was an eclipse that is called the Sagali eclipse. So the Sagali eclipse happened over Nineveh that day when Jonah the prophet went in, and he walked into Nineveh. And this is the other reason we know, based upon what Jonah said to them. He walked in on that June 15th, which actually happened to be a Jewish holiday called the 1st of Elul, is what it's called. And the 1st of Elul is a day of penance. And what did the people of Nineveh do? They had penance. But what did he tell them on this day, this June 15th, the 1st of Elul? And this is important. And this is why we know this is this date. Because the 1st of Elul actually fell on June 15th of 763 BC, number one. Number two, Jonah says, in 40 days, I'm going to watch all you burn. Do you know what happens 40 days later after the 1st of Elul?
The flood?
No, it's 40 days, is what we had for the flood. But 40 days after the first day of Elul is the Day of Atonement for the Jews, which is Judgment Day. So he is coming in. He is telling them if they don't change their ways, they are all going to burn in 40 days. And guess what? We had an eclipse happen that day, and we have King, I'm trying to how to pronounce his name, Sennacherib's, might have been his sons, might have been his grandsons, we don't know exactly. But his relatives knew how the God, the King of the Jews, had slaughtered 185,000 of their best warriors.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Jonas came out of the northern Israel.
Yes. Yep.
So, folks, you're beginning to see how things are tying back together.
They are. And I will tell you this. I really believe that we're ramping up for the start of the book of Revelation. I will tell you another thing, too. And I'm going to give this for free. Okay, Chris? I'm going to go to Matthew 24. In Matthew 24, we are going to go to verse 33, and I'm going to read all the way to 39.
All right, you're going to Matthew 24.
Yep. 33 through 39. And it says, "So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away." Now, real quick, I really believe what he's talking about is when the Israel becomes a nation again. When he says, this generation shall not pass till all these things happen. So the generation that got to see, that were born in and around when Israel, which was in 1948, became a nation again, Jesus, I believe, this is just my opinion, is saying that all these things are going to be fulfilled. "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that there was before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So shall also be the coming of the Son of Man be." I want to talk about this real quick. And this is me. I have ADHD. So this is my ADHD moment. Jesus tells us numerous times in the scriptures that we're to know the seasons, correct?
You know, you're talking about summer, spring, summer, fall, and winter.
Yeah, but he also says that we should recognize the signs of when he is coming back.
Because we will not be able to tell the change of seasons.
Right. And then we also will see these things happen, just like we can see the seasons happen. We should see the things that Jesus has told us and what the prophets told us in the Old Testament. When is he coming back in the end times? Now, they say not the day or the hour. Okay, I'm going to give you something for free. ADHD, Lawrence's opinion.
Oh.
Okay?
Hang on to your seat.
How many hours are in the day?
24.
How many time zones do we have?
A bunch.
24.
24, yeah. I didn't know the exact number, but
yeah,
I was thinking it was 24.
We have 24 time zones, 24 hours in a day.
24 hours in a day.
How many days do we have at any given time going on? 2.
2.
At any given time, there's 2 days going on. We can't know the day, but we can't know the hour. But what does Jesus also tell us? And I got to go to Luke on this instead of Matthew 24. I got to go to Luke. And why do I go to Luke instead of Matthew? Because Luke was a lot more detailed oriented than Matthew. And Luke actually talked and was saying a lot more. But in Matthew 24, I just got through reading. If I went another verse on Matthew 24, it talked about how there would be 2 men in the field. one would be taken, one would be left. There were two men or two women grinding the mill. One would be taken, one would be left. Here's the crazy part.
You're going to Luke 21?
I'm going to Luke 21. And I am going to...
Verse 25?
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to Luke 17. I apologize.
Okay. You're going to Luke 17.
I'm going to Luke 17, and I'm going 34 to 37. I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed, and one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Oh, yeah. Two women shall be grinding together, one shall be taken, and the other left. Two men shall be in the field, one shall be taken, and the other left. When this was written, Chris, this was written only for the Jews in Israel. They never had a time where there would be somebody in bed asleep at night, but where it's during the day also. Israel's only the size of New Jersey. They're only in one time zone. So why does it say the night? Do you see the point I'm getting?
I know where you're going. So
Jesus is letting us know that this is a whole world event. Now, I am not going to sit here and tell you the day or the hour, but what we're about to talk about, I don't want people to think it's a day or hour thing. I'm just merely pointing out what I think, because of my ADHD, that I think is absolutely fascinating. Okay? So, there's one other verse that I did not read, and that's the last verse, and that's 37. And they answered and said unto him, Where, Lord? And he said unto them, Wheresoever the body is, there is where the eagles be gathered together. Don't look at me like that, because I'm not saying this. This is what Jesus is saying.
yeah, this is from his words.
I'm just about to point out some things that have absolutely blew my mind. So, why am I talking about this? April 8th, we're going to have a solar eclipse. 7 years ago, actually 6 years, 7 months, and like 25 days ago, we had a solar eclipse just in the USA happen. And do you know the last time that only a solar eclipse went across the USA was? It was in the year 1776.
The founding of the country.
I'm just throwing that out there for free. Okay? This is freebie. We had, in that eclipse, we had 7 cities, starting in Oregon, the city Salem, Oregon, and going all the way through to Salem, South Carolina. We had 7 cities called Salem. That was in the path
That it crossed over.
Of the solar eclipse in 2017. And it actually came out of, and we'll get to this if time allows us, it actually came out of Fort Sumter, South Carolina, which is where the Civil War started.
First shot of the
And Civil War. Okay? Now, let's talk about this one real quick. Nineveh. Now, starting April 8th, 2024, we actually have 7 cities called Nineveh. This is a 130-mile wide pass that this eclipse is going. There are only 7 cities in all of America named Nineveh, and all 7 cities is being crossed over by this eclipse coming up.
Now, this eclipse will enter the United States at Eagle Pass, correct?
Yes, it does enter at Eagle Pass. What do we know about Eagle Pass?
Well, number one, that's where all the illegals are in Camp Shelby.
Yeah. Do you know what else is in Camp Shelby? What happened? Where did Camp Shelby get its name?
From the last Confederate soldier that was buried at Camp Shelby with a Confederate flag, correct?
Yeah. His name was J.O. Shelby. So the first eclipse ended in 2017, where the Civil War began.
Where the first shot was fired.
And the next eclipse coming in next month starts where the Civil War ended.
Civil War. Well, that's where it ended. Right?
Yes, where it ended with the burying of the last Confederate flag at Shelby Park. I kid you not. I cannot make this up. And I want everybody to go and look this up. Don't take my word. Don't take Chris's word. Go look these things up. I did. I've been studying it. I've been working on this, Chris, for over a week. Here's something else for free. Do you know tonight, Chris? Tonight. First time in over 70 years, we have a comet the size of Mount Everest that's going to be seen in the sky tonight. Chris, I kid you not, it's been 71 years since we saw this comet. This comet's been tracked since the 1300s. Do you know what they call this comet? They call it the Devil's Comet.
Satan's comet.
Well, they say the Devil's Comet is what they're calling it. So, I mean, I'm jumping around here a little bit, I know, but I just want people to see this. So what date? Let's talk about the date really quick, okay? Because this is fastest moving hour. We only got 9 minutes left. April 8th of 24. What month is April?
The fourth month.
The fourth month, 8th day, correct?
Yes.
I want to read you what Exodus 4:8 says. And this is God talking to Moses. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. Now, I say all of this, and we've talked about this, and I haven't given it justice. I'm sorry, I got to talk about this. These two eclipses from 2017 and the one coming in 2024, they actually make an X in the southern part of Illinois.
Cairo or Cairo.
Cairo, yes. And do you know what that southern part of Illinois is known for, what they call it? They call it Little Egypt, because there's numerous cities in the southern part of Illinois, which, by the way, where that X is in Cairo, do you know that sits the New Madrid fault line? It also sits on the Mississippi River.
Correct.
The Mississippi River. Why did they also call that part of southern Illinois Little Egypt? Because it reminded them of the Nile River, the Mississippi does. And this crosses right there at Cairo, Illinois, right there at the New Madrid fault line. Do you know, I'm going to give you some more. 4 days after these last, and I want people to hear me out. I'm not preaching doom and gloom. I'm not telling you anything's going to happen April 8th, okay? I'm just telling you, you need to pay attention because there's too many coincidences here. I don't believe in coincidences, number one, because God, I've already proved to everybody here that God speaks from the signs in heavens. I've given 7 or 8 verses in the Old and New Testament. Do you realize 4 days after that 2017 solar eclipse in August began the worst hurricane season in the history of the world? We had more damage than has ever been recorded before or since.
From hurricanes.
From hurricanes. We had more hurricanes ever. We had the most 4 Category 4 hurricanes ever happened 4 days after that eclipse in 2017 is when it started.
Well, talking about the proper pronunciation, I think it's Cairo, right?
Yeah, Cairo, yeah.
So, you know what else also goes there? Not only the fault, but you have the Ohio River where it dumps into the mighty Mississippi River.
Right there.
Right there.
Wow. I will tell you this, and I've already said it. I don't believe in coincidences. If I wasn't a Christian, it would scare me. I'm not setting a date by any means, and I'm not even saying anything bad is going to happen. But I will tell you this. If your heart is not in the right place, if you're worried where your heart is, you need to repent. There's a pastor that I listen to a lot, and he has what's called the ABCs of salvation. And I hope I'm going to do it justice for what he says. But A stands for admit you're a sinner. B stands for believe in Jesus. And C stands for call upon his name. If this program has touched you and you don't know where your heart is, I'm telling you where you can make it. Where you need to know where you're at is admit you're a sinner, believe in Jesus Christ, and call upon his name. You know, that's all the thief on the cross did. What did Jesus tell the thief on the cross? He told him, surely today you will be with me in paradise.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what he told him. So, do you need to be baptized to go to heaven? No. I mean, was the thief baptized? Let me ask you something. Did the thief do anything? Did he do any works to get into heaven? What did he do?
He just confessed.
What did he do? He admit that he was a sinner. He even told the other guy who was making fun of Jesus, he said, we deserve to be here. He does not.
The other guy was a murderer.
Right. So, so he believed in Jesus because he said, remember me, Lord. And then he called upon his name by saying, remember me. So I will tell everybody this. I don't know what's going to happen in 3 weeks. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'll be honest with you. I'm not worried where I'm going. But I will tell you this. I believe that this is a sign. I gave us every reason why this is a sign. I do not believe in coincidences, and I would humbly beg you, if you don't believe what I've told you, go and do your research. And
look it up for yourself.
Look it up for yourself. And when you come across the same conclusion I have, I would ask you to do what I just told you. It's not. You don't have to go to church. You do not have to be baptized. You do not have to give all your money away. I'm not telling you to do any of that. I'm telling you ABC, the ABC of salvation. That's the easiest, quickest way. Any questions, Chris?
You know, when you sit here and you analyze all this, and, you know, we always say, you know, call me a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
Pretty good conspiracy you put together.
Well, I will also tell you this, the Jews...
But it's actually factual.
This is all factual. This is all biblical, and this is all what has happened in the past or is happening.
Now, when this solar eclipse occurs on April the 8th, it enters at Eagle Pass into the United States. Does it exit in Maine when it goes out?
Well, it exits in Maine, but it actually exits in Nova Scotia and Nineveh. Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Now, there are 7, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 7 cities in the U.S. named Nineveh.
And only 7, and all 7 are covered under the.
This is WDXE, W287AA, and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect
God bless the
Communications.
United States and.
Activating now.
This is The Rich Eisen Show
Here's the other surprising part.
with guest host